for AB 2200. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you, Assemblywoman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would always defer to Assemblymember Lopez, although they sent the sergeants to get me and collect me to go to the committee.
So I understand. I was in those shoes yesterday.
I appreciate the committee's flexibility and that of Ms. Lopez. Thank you for allowing me to present AB 2200, the School Employee Housing Assistance Grant. This is a bill that seeks to help school districts in their ability to retain important employees who help our kids learn. In that respect, we often affectionately refer to this as a teacher housing bill. It essentially would provide grants to school districts to have the revenue to build housing, rental housing that would be affordable for teachers and other school district employees who are just being pushed out of the communities where they work. We hear this on a regular basis that our school district employees and teachers cannot afford to live in the districts where they work, and in particular in the districts where we need help the most, where we have the highest achievement gap. We want to be able to retain these employees who will be able to support our young people to be able to have the best educational opportunities. In one of the school districts that I represent, we know that they had to replace more than 200 teachers last year alone. And when asked, the main reason that they gave is they could not afford to live in the communities where they worked. And so this bill seeks to speak to two things. One, obviously addressing some affordability issues, but it is clearly focused on the lens of helping our students learn by being able to provide an additional strategy for dealing with teacher retention. This district focuses on districts that have had the highest recruitment and retention issues, that have to also address some of the highest costs, that have students who have some of the highest issues around income inequality. For many school districts, these programs just don't exist. Some districts have, a handful anyway, have been able to provide for these programs on their own, but most just cannot, and they are struggling to educate our kids with the few resources that they have. This bill would make sure that a school district could build a project from pre-development through construction, and to ensure that it would become a vehicle for affordable housing for teachers and other school district staff for years to come, through mechanisms that I'm happy to explain in more detail at any time should the committee members choose to. I'm honored today to have some witnesses representing school districts, Michelle McKay Underwood, who is representing the Oakland Unified School District, and Alex Gibbs, who's representing the City of Oakland. And I respectfully ask for your vote.
Great. Thank you. Witnesses, you have 2 minutes each.
Yes. Good afternoon, committee chairs and member. As Assemblymember Thurman introduced, my name is Michelle McKay Underwood, and I am pleased to speak in support of AB 2200 on behalf of the Oakland Unified School District. Oakland Unified's #1 goal in its Pathways to Excellence strategic plan is to recruit the best talent, create a system that cultivates their growth, and develop a culture that facilitates high retention of effective employees. And as you well know, districts throughout California are struggling to recruit and retain teachers. And this difficulty is compounded in communities such as Oakland, where the increase in the cost of rental housing is the second highest in the nation. The increase is higher than even in neighboring San Francisco. Only 50% of Oakland's teachers live in the city. Half of our employees drive through other school districts that are also looking for quality employees in order to come and teach in Oakland Unified. AB 2200 establishes a partnership between the state and school districts to fund the startup costs of development, which would otherwise be unaffordable to the district. Because of the high demand for teachers statewide, it is easy for prospective employees to choose employment in affordable housing markets. AB 2200 will help districts like Oakland Unified create affordable housing and once again be competitive in recruiting educators to teach the students in our community and to live in our community where our students reside. For these reasons, Oakland Unified is proud to support AB 2200. Thanks the Assembly member for his leadership on this issue and respectfully requests your aye vote.
Greetings, members of the committee. My name is Alex Gibbs, and I'm here on behalf of the City of Oakland, the sponsor of the bill. Currently, there's a housing crisis in Oakland, like in many parts of the state. A two-bedroom apartment averages for $2,950 a month in the City of Oakland. That's up 40% from last year alone. A recent study at the request of the Oakland mayor shows that 1 in 4 Oakland residents is in danger of getting displaced. The issue of skyrocketing rents, compounded by the low inventory of housing, negatively impacts teacher retention and leads to teacher turnover. This teacher turnover leads to decreased levels of achievement, and our students and children are the ones that suffer. The Oakland Unified School District hires up to 500 teachers a year, and one factor of that high turnover is the astronomical cost of living in the East Bay and Oakland. AB 2200 helps address these concerns. This bill will provide financing assistance for the creation of affordable rental housing for school district employees, including teachers. By creating this program, the rent is restricted at a certain level, thereby making it more affordable for teachers and district employees. AB 2200 will not only help provide assistance with workforce housing, but it will help with teacher retention, thereby supporting the students in the classroom. The challenge for all of us region-wide is to accommodate growth that's desirable and make sure that California continues to be a place for families to grow and thrive. AB 2200 helps us get there, and I respectfully urge your aye vote today.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support?
Good afternoon, Barrett Snyder. I have the Small School Districts Association in support.
Hi, Norma Sanchez with California Teachers Association in support.
Any witnesses in opposition? I'll bring it back to the committee. Any comments or questions from the committee? Ms. Weber.
Yeah, one couple of things. I think it says in here and that the resources comes out of Prop 98. Is that where it comes from, the $10 million, or is that where it comes? Is it coming out of Prop 98 funds that the schools would normally receive?
You know, some years ago, the state had a housing bond and used proceeds to pay for programs similar to this. Those funds have all been exhausted.
Right.
We're requesting general fund support for this.
Okay, I think there was something in here that said while it was coming out of general funds, it would also come out of the bill transfers $100 million from general fund to the school housing assistance fund. Because of the original source of the grant would be the general fund, any pre-development grants awarded to qualified school districts likely would count toward the Prop 98 minimum school funding allowance guarantee. So is that correct? So it would be basically coming out of 98. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. And I hope the school districts know that as well, that it's coming out of Prop 98, so that there isn't any misunderstanding that it comes out of the other general fund. This is for rental property only? Is that what it is? This is for rental property?
This is?
For a statewide, excuse me, a statewide plan, is that what it is?
No, it would allow grants. School districts would apply.
Right.
And those
But I
that
mean
receive
statewide,
it, any school district in the state could.
That met the qualifications
Correct.
of their district being 60%, or the area in which the housing would be located would be 60%.
You know, as we've approached this, we looked at eligibility as relating to the student population and the percentage of students who are on free and reduced lunch.
Right. Okay.
We're not making decisions about this as it relates to the housing market. Instead, we see this as a bill that's priority, has its focus on education.
And does it require the persons who receive this to continue to, is there any stipulation in it about them continuing to work in the district?
That would be a question for the districts to come up with, but what is certain is that any district that receives this grant and builds a unit would have to make that unit available to school district employees. It would be a loan that would be established for up to 55 years. And so 55 years seems like perpetuity to me, but it's not. What I'm saying,
55 is not, huh? Yeah.
no, that's not what I was saying. I was saying in the span of what we do in education, that feels like in perpetuity, because it means that the property would continue to be in the possession of the school district. And so when a teacher is able to move into home ownership or a better financial situation, that unit remains available for a future school district employee or teacher to be able to benefit from.
What I was asking was that if it's an issue of retention, then the assumption is that those who initially get into the housing would remain in the field of teaching. That was, so that if they got in and didn't like it and a year or two got out, then what happens to the housing? Or is that a stipulation that you have to, because it's about retention, I
Correct.
assume?
The housing always stays available for educators and school district employees. I think it's a great conversation to explore about whether or not someone who rents in one of these units has to sign an agreement to, to say that you will teach for so many years. We can certainly look at the experience of those few districts that have done that to see what best practices have worked. To my knowledge, there's been one or two, I think Los Angeles and Cupertino. Many are interested. They just don't have the dollars, as you've heard today from Oakland Unified, that they are interested but without the dollars. We certainly are open to that. But again, given we are looking to create opportunities to make it less prescriptive and more focused on local control decision-making for those districts to make decisions that make sense for their community.
And the districts would have to provide the land.
Districts would have to already have access to the land in order to even be eligible for this grant.
For the grant. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have
Thank
a
you.
quick
And
question.
again, per the bill, these properties would remain in district hands.
That is
It
correct.
wouldn't be transferred to anyone else.
That is correct.
With that, any further comments from the committee? Ms.
Thank
Kim?
you, Chairman. I think you just asked the question and answered it at the same time. That was my question.
The chair does that. Thank you.
I just quickly, I just looking at the considerations, it does not define the income level for the teachers that might be moving into. Again, this is the rental property, correct? The school districts would build and maintain the ownership and make it available for any qualifying teachers. And I think, Ms. Weber, you addressed the length of stay each teacher or her family would be eligible for staying until the duration of, obviously we want them to stay there for as long as they could in order to provide the ongoing stability to, educate our students. But again, so what is the income level that would make them qualify for this housing issues, and anything else you want to add to it? Thank you for asking the question and answering my.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. Again, we're really writing this in a way that school districts can establish their guidelines for how long someone might live there or how long they might teach in the district. Obviously, you cannot live in this parcel if you choose to separate from working in the district. This is intended for employees of a school district, and so in its very nature, it lends itself to retention. And I would say this: we all agree, or many of us believe, and I believe, that if we really want to do more on retention, we have to look at every variable, not just the lack of housing. We have to look at compensation. We have to look at training. We have to look at professional development. And I think we should be looking at all of those things. I do think that recognizing that we lose hundreds of teachers at a time simply on housing alone is one important factor in the conversation and in the menu of things that we need to do to retain our teachers. And we've invited the Department of Education to work with us on what those guidelines might look like. But ultimately, we want to make sure we respect the needs of local school districts to decide how the final details of their programs need to look to reflect the needs of their community.
Thank you. Ms. Olson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the sentiment in this bill. I really do. I couldn't agree more that we have a housing affordability crisis in many, many regions of the state, and that's something we have to work on. I'm a co-author of several bills this year trying to address housing affordability, both in terms of programs somewhat similar to this through subsidies, but more to address root causes. How can we lower the cost of building housing? So that over time we have less of a crisis in California. I guess my concern with this is, are we, and these are legitimate questions, just sort of thinking out loud, but are we in some ways making the problem worse by just tacking on state funds to address the housing piece or the PD piece, et cetera, when should we instead focus on raising teacher compensation, which you did address as a need, raising teacher compensation levels so that they're more appropriate for the particular area that the teachers are working in, so that more professional level salaries. And I suggest that for several reasons. One, I think we have a lot to do when it comes to teacher compensation. But two, I could see 10 bills following this one saying, well, now we need to do it for our firefighters. Now we need to do it for, name your profession. and they would all have a valid challenge that needs to be addressed. So what I'm struggling with is, are we just putting a Band-Aid on a problem by throwing $100,000 at housing rental programs instead of trying to address more root causes to lower the cost of housing, and then on the flip side, having salaries that better reflect the cost of living in the areas where we have extreme challenges?
Thank you. I have been trying to think about how to do a compensation bill, and if the vice chair is saying that she's going to do one, you're looking at your co-author. I'm ready to sign on with you.
I hear you. Unfortunately, it gets back to that's not our job here, right? But certainly through the bully pulpit, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to talk with you about it more.
I'm at your disposal when you wish to. To your point about, are we causing harm by doing this, just to answer it as I best understand it, I don't see how this creates harm. While we struggle with how we help our school districts raise compensation and improve training and do the other things that we know we need to address, this becomes one additional thing that we might do to keep a teacher. I hear from teachers regularly who say that they are at the end of their wits and that they are ready to leave. And it's sad because I hear from students who find these to be teachers who they are finding very engaging in helping them to learn. I've heard from students who have said that these particular teachers are teachers who have said that they're the only reason that these kids come to school, because they have that much impact and effect on what they're learning. We have to do something, and I believe that this is a good thing. We're removing one barrier while we continue to work through the long-term strategy of addressing other barriers. This is a nationwide crisis. We have a recruitment and retention issue nationwide. And from my standpoint, this is one of many strategies that helps us to maximize and leverage what we can do now.
Okay. One other question, and perhaps you've done some research on this, or maybe even the city of Oakland has, but are the school districts suffering, or the teachers suffering from the highest housing costs? Do those districts have access to land? My concern is that the districts with access to land for building this type of housing are probably not the districts where the housing costs are highest.
The way this bill is designed, it could benefit any school district, any part of the state. It could be urban, it can be suburban, it can be rural. And so what's interesting, if a district doesn't have access to land, they have some options to partner with other jurisdictions that can provide them land. I've had the opportunity to speak with, it's been interesting to speak to someone who is an elected board member of a transportation agency, to have them express interest in what this bill wants to do. Because in their transportation agency jurisdiction, they actually own many parcels that are in the cities that would benefit by having a teacher housing bill. And they've expressed willingness to partner with those school districts. And so even for those districts that don't themselves own land, there is an opportunity for them to partner with either a city, county, or another public agency that does, to address those land needs.
Okay. And then my final question is, you have singled out teachers as opposed to other professions that face the very same challenge because of the particular challenge with recruitment and retention?
I should be clear that this is a district, this would say that any school district employee could participate in the housing. Today I've spoken about teachers as an important example because of the significant issues around recruitment and retention and the nexus that teacher housing success would have to promoting student success.
Okay, thank you.
But it is, in fact, for any school district employee that receives the grant.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add to that. It sounds unusual that schools would do this, but universities do this all the time. And I know at San Diego State and at UCSD, where there have been housing issues, and they do it a little differently, though. They provide grants to the individual to purchase a home, and with an agreement that they will work at a certain period of time, and a portion of that down payment is taken off every year that they work. And so that then, in their mind, which has proven to be true, I had a faculty like that, because of ownership of land, a house, it creates more stability of that person being there versus renting property, because renters can move around much more easily than a person who owns property. So the actual ownership of property really creates more stability than necessarily renting. And so I know that the CSU and a couple of other places, after a person worked a certain number of years, they could get a grant for 10, 15, 20,000, can't remember, and then they would work, and as every year, so many years that they worked, a portion of that loan did not have to be paid back. And it basically created an opportunity for people to buy condos and various other kinds of housing in the area and give them a connection to San Diego. And that was very important. So as you look thinking about the option, there are some options that have existed in this state that have been relatively effective, particularly for University of Californians that are like in La Jolla, like in San Diego, UCLA and Westwood, and places like that where the property value in the general area is very expensive. And instead of talking about renters, they had some of those, but basically they talked about home ownership and providing grants that and in that sense, there was tied into them remaining at that campus for a number of years. One of my colleagues I hired basically bought a condo that way, new faculty.
I'd like to thank you for the suggestion. You're correct. The state had a vehicle for promoting home ownership amongst teachers to provide an initial down payment assistance program. Sadly, like so many of our programs, it's out of funds. And so while it is not in this bill, we've been spending a great deal of time looking at how to provide a resurgence for a program like that. And so in the meantime, until we can figure that out, we see this as a way of helping to get teachers on the pathway to home ownership. And that especially for those teachers who are in expensive markets where at the current time home ownership purchase is just out of their reach. This gives them an opportunity to remain in their community, continue teaching our students, and to be able to be on a path towards home ownership because they have affordable housing in the here and now. But we're interested in the examples that have been raised. We'd love to visit and see how those programs are working and see what we can model, what else we can model here in support of our educators.
Move the bill.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you, Mr. Thurman. I'm going to support the bill today. You know, I always say, give me a decent paycheck. Don't build me government housing. Right? Doesn't mean that government housing is bad. I'm just, I don't want to create that stigma as much as, give me a decent paycheck so I can buy my own housing is really kind of where I come from. But I'm going to support this because we do have a problem here, and there are many variables to it, which you pointed out. So thank you for that. And again, as the bill moves forward, I hope you would also look at, the high needs areas when it comes to teachers aren't just low-income areas. There's also Silicon Valley. They have a challenge, and the bill really doesn't, focus too much on that. The schools might be doing fine, but they still don't have an adequate supply of teachers, nor an adequate supply of housing for those teachers. So I hope you'll look at that as the bill continues to move through the process. And thank you for bringing this topic forward. You want to say something? All right, go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't here for the debate, but this issue is not new. Or 15 years ago, then member Mike Honda, during the first Silicon Valley boom, had the same teacher and firefighter proposal. I think maybe funded for a couple years, and I agree that teachers, firefighters, maybe social workers, there's a big need. I think it warrants us looking at some of these professions which have a huge societal impact and which we want to reward and recognize. I also think that this competes potentially with education dollars, and so I know that we're talking about a housing package and money available in a legislative housing proposal, and so I think that this deserves to be in that discussion as well. But the policy going forward, I think, is worthy, and I support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have the bill has been moved. You may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank all the committee members for your suggestions and to know that we'll be working on them as we go forward, especially the conversation about the length of time that a teacher should stay in a district if they are able to benefit from this program. We think that is very germane to the question of recruitment. Yes, we are focused on all geographic areas, although we are looking at free and reduced lunch percentage rates. That does mean that some districts will have more eligibility than some, but we are working with the Department of Education, and we're open on figuring out ways to make this as broad and inclusive as possible. I would ask that members not view this as competing with education dollars, but instead it's a leverage of education dollars. It's spending the same dollar twice. We're addressing affordability housing issues, and at the same time we're doing it in a way that will advance our educational goals for some of our neediest Californians. I thank you for today, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Secretary, please call the roll.
O'Donnell.
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Olson. Not voting. Olson, not voting. Kim. McCarty. Aye. McCarty, aye. Santiago. Thurmond.
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber. Weber, aye. It has 4.
The bill is out. It has 4 votes.
Thank you.
Congratulations. With that, we'll move to Mr. Chu, file item number 5.